This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Call to order. Everybody be in order. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
You have to do a roll call. Yeah, a vocal roll call.
I don't think you have to.
I think you have to when you have
Somebody
members online,
remotely.
but there's no members remote.
Yeah, corrected.
Okay.
I think
I never used to have to do that, but
It's like an ADA thing that we do.
but there's nobody here.
you want to do it.
No,
We're good.
here.
Motion to approve the minutes nicely submitted by Leslie.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If you weren't here at the meeting, you should have abstained, just to make sure that you were at the meeting. Everybody here was at that meeting, even if it was remote, as long as you were at the meeting.
Can't remember now. Was I?
I think you were.
I don't think I was.
Okay.
So let's tear as an abstention.
I abstained, so I didn't second. Dawn did.
I seconded. And I throw my.
She kicked me under the table.
Report from the draft writers, Leslie, Cindy, Kathy, and Tom. I guess Leslie. Report will be a draft to the mayor, discuss respite day health option.
We wrote it.
Okay. All right.
Where is that respite day?
Well, this is, so that'll be next. So let's start with, so did everybody have a chance to read the draft of the committee report and the draft of the UMass Boston report?
It was a little long. I read.
Read until he fell
To
asleep.
be honest.
I try to be honest with you. What I really loved, and I want to thank you, whoever did the writing for our report, is the executive summary. The committee recommends Easthampton mayor form a charge building committee to create a new senior center. All I want to add is strongly recommends, because it has to be done. That's just my opinion, but I would add strong.
So,
But I would like to just compliment all of the people in here, and I'm very happy that you included the site reports that Leslie did, because they're fantastic, and it gives the next committee information. You know, if they say, how did South Hadley do it? And it's right there.
yep, the only one that I left out was, the reports we did as the COA board, because those this committee didn't do. So the COA board can always chime in on the other sites like Long Meadow or something at another time. So Leslie, could you please track the comments people make of what they'd like to see included? And then at the end of this item, we'll ask Dan to do a vote so that we can vote the edits, because the edits will be made and then you won't get a chance to see it again,
I'm sorry,
because I have to give it to the mayor on the by the 21st.
who made these comments?
We're making them now.
Make
Make
them
it
now.
Oh, I
So
thought
if you
somebody
want,
else.
so if you want to recommend to the committee that we put in strongly, then I just want any edits to be voted on so we don't have to come back again
You
with
got
the
it.
final draft. Okay,
We're
Let's-
talking about our report. not
our report first.
UMass.
Our report first. So just to give you the background, so Leslie wrote a draft of the executive summary. Then we workshopped it with a few people, and then we put together the rest of it. So I workshopped the site part with Tom to flesh it out, the site visit part with you, and Kathy and I went over like the whole thing. And then when we got the UM Boston report, we reviewed, you know, we had said that the quote program committee plus Leslie as a writer would review that and then submit comments back to Caitlin at UMass Boston. So we got them to add in 2 things that we'll talk about in a minute. Any other comments on the committee's report? So executive summary, site visits, and properties.
Where does Dan want the strongly put in under key findings and recommendations, that first
Right
little
at the-
paragraph?
Write
at
an
the-
executive summary.
Mhm.
The first comment. After work performed, key findings,
Oh, okay.
in bold, the committee recommends. Be
So
strong.
the first
You just wanna
recommendation.
Yeah,
strongly.
that's what I thought. Okay.
I mean, I want the mayor and anybody reading this to understand
Mhm.
that we feel very strongly about this.
I would just add that, you and Leslie, and whomever formatted this, I thought the format of the whole
Yeah.
thing was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Each piece fits, it doesn't seem like it's fractured, like here's this subcommittee report, here's this, and just thrown together. It flows very nicely. Great job. Great job with that.
Good.
I think paying attention to some of the city branding too, even though this is a draft, is really useful because it presents like a finished piece.
Yeah, hopefully, Lindsay, if you watch this, thank you, because I ripped it from the 2023 city budget, the
Okay.
formatting. So that it would be, now, there have been branding tweaks recently made, so I need to double check this, but this is going to the mayor as a draft. Anything else on the actual committee's report that you liked or think we need to edit? Okay, so then the UMass Boston report, when we reviewed it, one of the concerns we had was that,
Oh, wait, could you wait until,
yeah, you want to pull it up?
what I want to say is, why don't we vote on the word strongly?
Okay.
And then
That's the only
that's
recommended
the only
change, right?
recommended change from this committee. All in favor of adding strongly to the location I said?
I.
I'm sorry, do that over. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So who's doing that? Leslie?
She's got it.
add it to the.
Yeah.
Now, I just want a moment to pull up the,
The UMass Boston report.
if I can find it. What's draft?
So the background to this is that we got their first draft. We reviewed it with them by Zoom. And one of the things we noticed was that because there's a certain number of people, why is it not recording us? Stay in the call. It's acting like, oh, it's probably because nobody's participating from home. We noticed that, as you recall, maybe, I don't know how, let's just say 75 people participated in the forums, okay? 12 senior center directors were interviewed. It's a relatively small number of people. So we asked her to just detail briefly who participated and the study's limitations. So, these are not people speaking for the whole of Easthampton. And so something might be weighted very strongly by like 2 people. So she did put that in. And then the second part,
How did she do that? She
just put a statement like limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna do a draft of, actual verbatim of what the people said.
No, but I think she does have notes available if we need them. And then the second thing that we asked her to do was to put in more of the trends. So UMass Boston has studied senior center trends all through Massachusetts and the needs of older adults all through Massachusetts. So we said, could you put in more about what is the condition of older adults generally since the pandemic, since the last time you did your big study here in 2018, that is pertinent to senior centers. So she put in a sentence or two about why people need a community center for older adults more now, whether or not, so what you read in that final report, some of the points in the final report are because we asked them to flesh it out
Are they
more.
in here, these things you asked for?
Yeah.
The one you sent me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find them.
So limitations, that section, that's
Okay.
new, we asked for that. And then at the top, the very first section, I think, talks about sort of older adults today. somewhere. Yeah, here. So we asked for her to flesh that whole first section out about the evolving role of senior centers. And this is where my question about respite and community programs for people with cognitive loss, dementia, and so on comes in. They actually have studied statewide, and I'm asking her for, just show that to me because I don't have access to that journal. They actually did a study with Rutgers, so New Jersey and Massachusetts. What is the importance of community programs like this for older adults with dementia? Like, how can we start measuring the impact in terms of the savings and healthcare costs and healthcare utilization if you are participating in centers, to kind of get like a baseline, I think, for this for the future, because the population of people with dementia is going by 2060. This research just came out to be 40% because of
That was
the,
on the news list.
right. So even though with current treatment options and human services approaches, the rate per person of dementia is decreasing. Overall, there's going to be so much more because there's more older people, right? And so worldwide. So then the question is, does that have an impact on the space we develop for the future senior center? In some places, they build a specialized area like we've discussed for respite care or adult day health, or even just community programs like what we have. So what I didn't know is, do we need to make a statement in here somewhere that acknowledges that the building committee may have to grapple with, should the building be able to serve people as that population increases in Easthampton? Because there is no adult day health in the city of Easthampton. And we aren't saying we think the senior center should provide it, but if it was going to have an impact on the space utilization or needing to put an addition on in the future or staffing, I just didn't know, because we hadn't mentioned it and a lot of places mention it.
I think it's important. The reason I think it's important is because our participants and our future participants, their spouses may be the ones with dementia. And now in order for them to be able to participate in our senior center, they may need a respite just to be able to participate in an exercise class. And I think we need to take that into consideration because people are aging in place longer, and the resources from the state are aimed at providing people with financial resources and ability to age in place.
So you and I spoke about it briefly when we were going over sites, and several of the sites we're recommending as possibilities have excess land, which could allow us potentially to expand in the future. However, I think upfront going in, the building committee should at least, the main building committee, if you will, should at least be looking at the possibility of throwing everything against the wall and see what sticks. Because it's going to be a lot cheaper to build it up front than it's going to be to add it on later on. So I don't know what's needed for respite care. Is it one room? Is it 2 rooms? Is it an office or something? I don't know what's needed, but whatever you write for a epilogue to this, if you will, needs to state that the building committee should be encouraging the architects to look at developing that into the plan. And if it costs an extra $1 million today, so be it. It's not going to cost. It's going to cost an extra $2 million down the road to dig a hole and add on to a building that's already been built.
I'm just not understanding the depth or the definition of day health respite care. If we do anything, and I totally agree with this, especially since I saw that same dementia report last night, we should make sure that we put it into this draft, and it may want to be on our draft, not theirs, unless there's some research they're going to help us with. Between now and the 21st, do they have time to look at what other communities are doing for day health? Because that's the first thing I'd say on the building committee. Well, let's find out what our peer communities are doing for this. Do they repurpose a room? Do they have to build a huge new space?
I'm not sure a lot of it's going on in Western Mass.
Well, we have to, first of all, I don't know what it is. So let's define it.
Dan, let's say, God forbid, you have dementia And your wife says, I need a break. Where can I get rid of this guy?
That's what the rest of
She drops you off at 9 a.m. and picks you up at 3 p.m. And she has some sanity left.
Or, and I
My
know
kids would
Dawn
like
has her
that.
hand, well, I know Dawn has her hand raised, but just to take this liberty, or like Crystal said, you're coming in for Tai Chi. Where can you put Harold while you're at Tai Chi?
Right.
He can be doing some kind of activity in a room next door with supervision while you're in Tai Chi would be a big difference and would take up more space, but.
I'm just wondering if we should have something in the report to the effect of the other recommendations. It's like based on trends and funding and this need that we see, we think the building committee should be considering this when they are considering the
I
site and
totally agree.
space. I don't think we have to totally define it for them. I think we could add in something with our other recommendations that's like, this is a key thing that people should be thinking about.
Respite should be defined for caregiver, it's for caregivers. We should also make sure, well, I think it should be the executive summary statement. Building committee also recommends, given recent reports on dementia and what is day health care and respite availability for caregivers should be recommended. So I would leave it to all of you who are staff to write that into the report. The other thing I want to say is, one of the things they mentioned last night in the report was dementia prevention. And one of the things we provide, social interaction, which is one thing, games, anything to keep the mind active. And those things, we should put that in the report someplace. This is the reason you want to do this, because seniors need this. You're sitting at home, you can't play chess or checkers by yourself. Well, you can.
You win all the time.
And exercise, and then having a place for the public health nurse to like take your blood pressure or whatever, like all the prevention stuff.
Just a statement that says dementia is often prevented by the things that can be provided with new programming in a new building. So I think that small statement should be there.
Yeah. So one other thought along those lines. We know about this today. We know the potential issue. We know the potential fix. Shame on us if we don't put it in a report. We don't know what the issues are going to be 20 years from now. And they're going to fly up in somebody's face. And maybe 20 years from now, we would have to add on to the building, or we would have to expand outdoor space or do something. But we know this is an issue today, we know today that this will be an issue in the future. We need to prepare for that in this new construction.
And it's just occurring to me, another thing that we didn't say was, if we're truly going to be a warming or cooling center in the future, we don't have any, like personal cubbies, storage lockers mentioned. We don't have a definition of, is it all adults, just older adults, are children welcome, are pets welcome? Like, we didn't do any of that. I'm just thinking this now that, that needs to be defined.
But I think, Cindy, that can get flushed out with the architects.
Yeah.
'Cause at a minimum, you and Don are going to be on that building committee because you're going to be the experts of those kinds of
I
things.
certainly hope so.
I don't think this committee has to identify
Right.
those types of things.
I think though, let's put the respite healthcare, day healthcare, dementia statements, any way you want to go along it
Executive summary.
in the executive summary.
Mm-hmm.
Do a recommendation, given recent reports and what the building can provide and dementia prevention programming for this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's big. It's the one thing, I have to be honest with you, as a senior, the only thing I worry about is, am I going to lose my mind?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I've seen you lose your mind a couple times.
That's only because of politics.
And I've found that
Of course.
people are being diagnosed much younger. Like,
Mhm.
I'm having people who literally stopped working last year and found themselves in the grocery store, not knowing how they got there or why they're there, calling family members and having to relocate to Massachusetts from other states because they can't live independently. So I think that being able to support those with memory impairment by providing them with purpose is important, because a lot of these people don't necessarily need assistance with ADLs, but they need a purpose, something to do every day, but that requires a level of supervision that traditional senior centers do not provide.
Well, and I guess that's why I agree with all of what you're saying. I feel like I like the idea of making sure a building committee is considering that and not being overly prescriptive in what that looks like. Cause I think it also is like, we could build another half of a building, but it requires very different staffing levels and skills and all of that. So it's a big,
If we build the
Holistic
building the
thing.
way we're talking, with enough rooms, you can repurpose a lot of those rooms for these kinds of things. And that's where you guys come in. We get the building built. Oh, we have to provide for this. Well, let's change this room. I think that's why when we're on the building committee, we have to say, look, don't cut rooms. This is one rare area we need. But I think it's important to put it there because I think it has as much power towards helping seniors out there. We have to convince the public. We want you to vote yes on this. And this plus the veterans, it's the politics of it. It's telling people, look, this is what we're going to provide. Besides a place for you guys to go, eat a meal, talk to people, play games, whatever.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be our City of Easthampton program. It could be a lease space or a rental space. So like somebody who's already an existing adult day health comes in, rents it. So now it's like a profit center, but it gives people the ability to have their loved one go there for the day or have their loved one go there while they participate.
And that's
She had a,
So I didn't know if we were talking about two different spaces, like daycare, totally, which is totally different area, or just respite. I'm not sure that's the right term, respite care, just while someone is doing Tai Chi.
well, and there has to be staffing for that.
Right,
You
right,
can't let the dementia patient by themselves.
obviously,
So
obviously.
what you need to do is figure out, as a programming, you're gonna have to figure out the schedule and all that.
Or one
I think
daycare
it's
center
just
could
important that
take
we-
care of both if it's in the
Right.
same.
I put this under the heading, if you build it, they will come. And if you have these programs and you don't have the staffing, I have to believe any future administrations are gonna bend over backwards to give you the staffing you need because of the growing population of seniors in the city. So if you say I need, look at some departments today that are twice the size of what they used to be because of the demand. And the demand's gonna be great for senior services. I don't think it's gonna be hard to add staff in the future.
Anything else on this subject?
I don't know, I'm just wondering, is it too much? Is it too much to add up?
It's just a statement. We're not.
All right.
It's up to. Let the next
You know, the
committee-
building committee will
Yeah.
debate the same thing we are, whether we should add more space or is the space enough? Personally, I feel the space is enough. And we just have, in the programming, will determine what we do. But they're gonna cut stuff.
We just have to put it all out there. I think this
I
is a
just think
critical statement.
the statement about dementia is a huge statement that we
Oh,
need to
yeah.
put in there. It's a convincing statement. So I'm gonna recommend, in the form of, what a motion should be, that we ask Cindy, so maybe Leslie, to write this out, and we trust that they will write it. We don't need to re-vote on the draft. So in the form of a motion, I think we should move that this recommendation on a day health and respite care and dementia be put into the report in the executive summary. Somebody say, I'll move. Sandy, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I say that because you guys have written a fantastic report. Great.
And when it comes to too much or what have you, I mean, I just think back to the school building committee and we put forward $105 million project for the new school. And some members of the committee said, what are you, crazy? We're never going to sell this to the public. But we stuck to what we wanted. If they had voted it down, we might have had to go back and shrink the project, but they didn't.
They voted for
By
2/3.
75% of Easthampton voters, Easthampton people who voted in favor of having their taxes go up $700 a year to pay for the new school. Now, with that said, the current tax climate, I'd be careful. We wouldn't be going for an override next week.
Right.
People just got their reassessments and our taxes went up an average of $185 a year. So we'll have to find the right time, but I don't know who I was talking to about it. Was it you or someone else?
So when,
We would make this a special election.
It was me. And the other
Oh,
thing is,
so-
we need to look at the high school and see when that's coming off the rolls, because this is called debt exclusion. And the high school, once it's done, your taxes supposedly go down.
It's got a ways to go.
but it does.
Yeah, it's a 20-year bond and it's only probably, might be halfway through.
So basically, we're asking for everything all at once. We're asking to make sure there's space for dementia. We're making space.
We're recommending
That's up
that
to
it
the
be
building
considered. The building committee will consider it, Sandy.
Oh,
The
okay.
building
it all
committee is
out there.
gonna.
So we're not, well, how
We
are,
want them to think about it, and
Yeah.
do we need extra space? Do we need a special room?
Want to
And
make
the
sure,
architects can tell us.
want to make sure it's on the radar.
Yeah, so our statement is just gonna be, we recommend they
Okay.
consider it and they're looking into it
Okay.
while thinking.
Yeah,
about
we're
it.
not talking about a
Yeah.
huge addition to the
Yeah,
report.
that's
just
what
a-
I was,
A
yeah,
small paragraph.
okay.
And what Dan was saying about how they might cut the space in the end, this is a way to say, hold on, before you cut space, remember, we need to have that second classroom so that people can be doing a memory care activity in there while their loved one is exercising or doing art in the other room. That would be sort of the idea that now it's high priority not to cut that space.
So way down the road, when Easthampton votes on it,
Mhm.
they're gonna vote, that's gonna be in there, that we need this extra.
If the building committee chooses to. put
Yeah,
that in.
yeah, well, yeah, but I mean.
Well, they're
okay.
gonna vote on it, but we're gonna have community forums and all kinds of publicity. And this will be one of the major topics, at least I'll bring it up.
Okay.
We're gonna help veterans. We're gonna have a space for dementia patients and respite care, et cetera. And it's all about selling it, and now it's a selling point. My biggest selling point is South Hadley can have it, why can't we? They can't have a program in our current building because it's too small. They have to kick people out. So those are the kinds of things that we have to, but that's the biggest part of the thing.
The other thing to keep in mind is that if the committee's strong enough, they'll stick to what they want. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the voters. So if this is an $18 million project and someone says, if you add this other stuff, it's going to be 20, $2 million spread over 20 years is a rounding error for the taxpayers, frankly. So if it's between 18 and 20 million, the committee shouldn't be cutting that. The committee should be saying, we're charging forward, we demand, we want this, and let the voters decide.
So far, we're so far away from that because we have to get an architect.
Oh,
We gotta put out some kind, we're gonna tell them, this is what we want, and they'll put out some kind, what do they call that?
RFP.
Well, no, I mean, the architect will come up with a plan.
Oh.
This is an initial development plan,
Design phase.
design phase. It doesn't have all the details. It just says, here's the floor plan.
Yep.
And et cetera. So
And I think that it's gonna, if anything, it's going to get us more support, because anybody who's at home right now, caring for a spouse, caring for their mother, like in that sandwich generation, is going to be like, I can't participate in a new senior center unless it has this space.
Right.
Or it wouldn't afford me the ability to.
can you, I don't know, find out from other senior centers in the area if anybody has this program going on?
Well, we know that a number of them have memory cafes and certain other things
Do they have respite care?
well, I don't know.
Well, in other words, if another peer community is doing it and it's successful, it's another selling point.
Right.
I
mean-
think the selling point too is let's be the first.
Well, certainly we wouldn't be the first for sure.
Yeah.
Because there are big projects going on in Massachusetts that have been presented to us. So that it is happening. I just don't know if locally.
Okay.
Let's be the
So-
first locally.
But I can ask.
Okay. Anyway, is there anything else in this
Just-
report?
To Crystal's point, real quick, if we have this respite care, you may bring in people from around who want to participate in programs who never have and leave their loved one to be taken care of while they're doing the program. So it might expand your membership.
It also, if you read the reports, potentially it expands the diversity of who can participate, because the higher proportions of people at risk for dementia are people who have more social and economic challenges. And also it's even in terms of race, background, there's a higher risk level for more dementia. So it's just some people in our community will have more risk of dementia and also more risk that they wouldn't be getting quality care. And then the community center that's funded publicly is the place to go for help. So if you choose to basically be a clubhouse that's just for the people who really can participate, you leave out people with big challenges, and while all populations of people at all income levels, all race, all ethnicity have dementia, some people are burdened by it more. So we would be helping the people who are burdened at all levels and not being exclusive.
And the good thing about adult day health is they all contract with Medicaid. So it wouldn't be a socioeconomic factor. Like if it was an adult day health center, they would accept Medicaid dollars and private dollars as well. So
My ignorance, what's this CHD that's just here now? What is that center? Is that something?
That is mental health and addiction therapeutic services,
Mostly young people, all right?
and veterans and older people.
We can negotiate with them if we get this new center. Hey, do you want to come over and help us out?
I thought it was, I thought they geared towards youth, but I'm not sure.
Well,
Maybe it's
Anyway,
everybody.
let's finish the discussion about the UMass report.
Yeah.
I don't have any other edits because you've already done them. I have a question. Where do they get the medium income from? You say HH, Health and Human Services Department. How do they get that? I'm just
Can I look at your screen?
These,
Medium household income.
I'm just wondering where
This
all
is
of
all
this is.
from the census. And UMass has like,
So in a census, you do
A
put down how
role.
much your income is. I don't remember.
yeah, the UMass has an official role in interpreting the census for the state government to use.
Okay.
So and they updated this, I think, with the latest 2023 figures.
You can check a box on ranges, income, you don't put down your actual number.
But
Well, it's important to note that because
They have a
South
source
Hadley
info.
or
Yeah,
our income level is not that high compared to,
Have that.
there's only one, there's two, Greenfields is pretty low, I'm surprised.
A lot of this game.
But they built.
What were
They-
you
they
gonna
built
say?
one.
This was in here.
I thought they cited it on the report.
Looking at this,
yeah, they cited it.
yeah, so just for the public that's not here right now, so the source was the American Community Survey 2019.
Oh, it's right there.
And
Yeah.
the 2023 estimates that are like the most recent estimates that they've done. And then the information where it starred Ludlow, Wilbraham, and Hadley, those stars just mean that some information was gotten by the ad hoc building committee, which was the number of parking spots and the construction costs, the year opened, the building size, but the population size and population numbers age 60 plus, and the percentage of people age 60 plus and the median income, that's all from UMass Boston. So just for the public that's not looking at this, because it's still a draft. So the communities that UMass Boston researched: Longmeadow, Greenfield, Situate, Webster, Rockland, South Hadley, Pembroke. They got the information about the construction costs, when the center was built, the number of parking spots, the building size, and the information, like I said, Ludlow, Wilbraham, Hadley, UMass Boston didn't speak to, I think. I could be wrong, but we provided those numbers ourselves. And then the reason for choosing those communities to talk with is that they are similar enough to Easthampton to
Peer
be
communities, that's the
considered
definition.
a peer community, even though they have a little bit different population sizes, especially Hadley is very different, but we chose to visit Hadley. And then also the income ranges from Greenfield, like 54,000 a year is the median household income, all the way up to Pembroke, 141,000, and Easthampton sits at 72,900 $125 is the median household income. So we're kind of in the 1, 2, 3, 4 of all these communities that are in the lower income bracket.
What's
Okay?
really interesting, I just saw this, Webster has one of the lower income, 68,000, and they built the largest costly center. That's interesting. I said they weren't afraid to go all out, even though they didn't have the income level that their population would suggest.
But lower incomes,
More services.
more service, but they may or may not equate to a higher senior population too.
Right.
If you look at my income right now,
24%.
it's nothing like, my income goes in now, it's solely Social Security compared to when I was working 6 years ago. So
Well, in any case, I just was happy they put that in.
how much of the $9,800 did we use?
All of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it all is paying for UMass's work on this. Yep. So
And they're coming to talk to the mayor.
they're coming on the 28th to help present the work, and they understand it's a draft. So the mayor will so we now have like a couple of days to clean this up with your approved edits and submit it to the mayor. She would like to have it by the 21st at the latest to review it and develop her questions for this group and UMass. And then that'll all happen on the 28th. And we had thought that we might be publishing this to the public, but we're not. It's still a draft when we
Why
meet
aren't
with
we
the
ever,
mayor.
we're never gonna publish it?
No, what she said is that when we're meeting with her on the 28th, it is it's still in draft form.
But after that,
I don't know.
well, I want the city council to read it. My God, they're gonna vote on whether to have an override.
Yeah, but Dan, that might be the responsibility of the building committee. This is a tool for the building committee. This is a jumping off point that they're not gonna have to repeat all this work.
Public to know
I don't
how
know.
hard this committee works.
I just
I'm
don't know.
sorry, I do.
I just don't know if the
You
ad.
want to go
hoc
speak
committee-
at public
Yeah.
session and we can read it to them?
Yeah,
We
there
do
you
a
go.
presentation. We got 15
Well,
minutes.
I
right?
will. I'll argue with the mayor. This has to be public.
Yeah, but let's not assume that it won't be. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, she said draft up until she reads it and approves. Yes.
Oh, I think also maybe it's that the properties that are detailed in it, maybe that wouldn't be a public piece. That was all I asked about,
Well,
really.
we could probably, we could,
That could be edited. That could be edited.
or we could also take out the only one that's private, you know?
And frankly, by the time we get there, I'm not so sure we even have to do that because the owner said, I'm not interested in selling. So that's why it's way down on the list.
Mhm.
So,
It's up to the mayor on that.
so I just want to go over for a moment, the meeting on the 28th. Who's presenting at that meeting?
So
Did we finish with this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we finish with this? Did we
So-
vote on?
We're not doing any edits.
Okay. So we're
The
done.
only thing we voted on are 2 edits, the strongly word and the healthcare statement recommendation for our report.
So the format of the meeting will be that the mayor is coming to us with questions and we are responding to the questions. And also UMass Boston is responding to the questions. And then after the questions are addressed, if there's anything else that while we have Caitlin, she wants to say and to sum it up and sum up the work, she can do that. And then if there's anything the committee wants to say to sum up the work, because this is the final meeting of the committee, and then the mayor also will thank the committee for their work.
I guess I envision there being some sort of brief presentation, potentially from UMass, potentially from you, and then go into a Q&A with the mayor, because maybe some of that presentation would answer some of her questions. Unless you think it's just going to be a Q&A, like we're just going to sit here and say, Mayor, you have any questions?
I like that.
I don't know. I kind of like to have some sort of brief presentation about sort of a synopsis of, well, you just said, Dan, let's not let all this work go unnoticed. Maybe some sort of brief summary of, here's what we handed to you, Mayor. Now what do you have
City
for
can go
questions?
over, use the executive summary and do bullet points from that.
That is true, I think as long as we are not screen sharing the actual report since it's still a draft.
Right.
I could make high point, PowerPoint slides, so that people can see, what the recommendations are.
Because it's a public meeting, correct?
Exactly.
And that's a public meeting. All right, well, if the mayor says, no, we're not gonna release this, I says, how can you do that?
But as chair, also you can contact her and just ask, what would you like to see for this final meeting, and here's what we'd like to see, or you could do that.
I'm not so sure it's the final meeting. I think it's what happens after the final meeting. What happens now? So this report's done. Now it's going to sit on a shelf for a few minutes because she's got to go form a building committee.
Mhm.
When this gets handed off to the building committee, is it simply going to be under cover of darkness? They get this report, or is it going to be able to?
I
think-
just don't like that kind of statement about any major public document. I'm sorry, transparency is something we've always talked
I
about.
agree, Deanna. What I'm saying is maybe there should be some sort of formal presentation to the building committee once they're established with the document.
However the mayor wants to do it, at some point, this work has to be made public. Or there might be a leak.
There's also, Leslie, I know you had-
Where does city council come into all this?
Well, I want them to know about it, because
Yeah,
eventually,
exactly.
if we're gonna have a special election and ask them to approve an override vote, they're the ones that do it, not the mayor.
We've got to approve to put it on a ballot.
And we're gonna have a new mayor, but we won't have necessarily, I know a lot of councilors are gonna run again, so we'll see. But in any case, they're the ones that finalize it, and I still have a little influence over that committee.
And then also the Council on Aging Board,
Right.
the plan was for this to be presented to the board so that the board could help advocate for the money the building committee will need to do their work. And that's, in order for the board to be educated to advocate for that, they would need to see the work, and not every board member is on this committee.
So the board has the power to add or subtract anything.
No, but they have the ability as advisors to the Council on Aging Director and the Council on Aging to write the mayor a letter saying, we saw this report and we support you funding the building committee to do this design plan that takes these things into account, or we support an RFP going out to select an architect and a designer, a request for proposals to architects. So the board can help advocate even more than this committee can, because the mayor can disband, will disband this committee when its work is done, but the board continues. And so the board is a mechanism besides, just generally people in the community and city council to
How many of
advocate.
you are on the board here? Okay, so we're speaking to the choir. This is good.
And Patrick is on the board.
There you go.
We're the squeaky wheels. We're the ones that remind
Exactly.
city
That's right.
council, the mayor, what's important for the senior center.
I envision myself going before the city council this year sometime, saying, you've all received this report. I hope you've read it. We need to do this.
We can't be a new city without a new senior center.
No, I'm saying all these other communities have beautiful senior centers. We keep waiting. It's gonna get up, cost more and more.
To Cindy's point about the money though, that we'd advocate for, I believe the city has to come up with the money for the design phase. And then granted, that could be reimbursed out of the override when if that happens, but if the override fails, you still have to pay for the
Well, how much does that
design
cost in the school building? How much was that? Do you remember how much that was initially?
for the design phase. No, because it was I don't know if it was a grant or what it was, but there was school money available. Like, unfortunately, there's not a lot of state money available for senior
Well, we
centers
put out an RFP for an architect and then they come back with a figure.
for the design phase.
But the estimate for the design phase could be anywhere from, or it was a year or two ago when I last talked with, for example, EDM. It could be anywhere from including the work we've already done, like 150,000, it could be 75,000, 150,000, or maybe for the whole kit and caboodle, 200,000. Like, we just don't know.
That's not much. Believe me, it's not.
On a $20 million project.
Well, and we have the stabilization funds to pay for that. We have a capital stabilization fund that's designed for capital purchases, and this is one, so.
And I think it is already in the capital plan that the department heads all have to submit items for, the capital plan. So things that cost a certain amount of money. And I think this is already on there.
Way to go, put it in the plan. Request for capital funding for a design phase and say EDM, what's your high end? 300, put that in.
And even if, God forbid, the vote gets shut down, the design does have a shelf life. I mean, it's not good for just this year if it were to happen.
Well, it could be, a design is always a design, the cost goes up.
Right.
I don't see real estate, going down.
But with that word of caution, however, like the school vote, you've got a built-in audience of voters. You did with the school. If the school parents all voted for the school, it was going through. If the rest of Easthampton voted against it, there's a high population of seniors here, and if they vote in favor of the senior center, it's going to go through.
Well, in any case, do we have anything else to discuss?
I said if. I did say
Yeah, and I
yes.
said-
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want it, but.
Yeah, I want it, but yeah.
Right, that's.
I know that we already talked about, all the things we were going to talk about today. I just want to personally, as the Council on Aging Director, thank the staff, COA board members, the participants and volunteers who did all of this incredible work. I think it was a little hard to picture what we would do, what it would look like, and how much we could get done in time. And really, I mean, we did it pretty much by the time we said we would get it done. That's pretty amazing. So thank you, everybody, for working so hard on it. And
Thank you for all your efforts too.
And Cindy and Leslie, just over the weekend, just all the work that you did. And
Yeah, absolutely.
That
Oh,
took you a
thank
while.
you. And Leslie, the work you
Helped
did,
too.
with the site visits and
The
putting that all
note-taking.
together.
Well,
Oh
thank
my
you.
God.
I feel good about one aspect of this. I think this
Only one?
one major aspect. I think this report gets us to the place the mayor wanted to get to, which is there's no turning back. Here's this report, expresses the need and how we fix the need. There's no turning back. It's the next administration. Hopefully they're going to run on a platform of, I support the new senior center.
That's why I want to go to the city council, because if any of them are going to run for mayor, they're going to hear it.
Right.
We need this.
And we are at the last election, they were already talking, candidates that were running were talking about how they supported a new senior center. So if city council candidates were saying that at the last election, I feel like
That's why this report has to be made public. Because we're coming up on a major city election.
It's not only that, but I think one of the things that happens in communities is work gets done and it's kind of sub rosa. People don't understand. And one of the things that became really clear to me throughout this is, this isn't just all of a sudden, this is our idea, let's do it.
Right.
This work started a decade ago. But, if it's not out there, people forget about it.
and Liz,
Absolutely.
I remember Leslie saying, which really hit me home when she said, I'm visiting these senior centers and I want to know, why don't we have this? And I was like, because it's true. Our seniors may be worried about the cost of things going up, but when the mayor did her first presentation for us as the ad hoc committee, she said, just because we move forward with it doesn't mean we necessarily need an override. She said, we can make the money. So to me, that means that I don't know what she's doing after this,
20 million.
She won't get 20 million out of her hat, that's for sure.
but just the fact that she knows that there's other resources so that the whole thing doesn't need to be
Yeah.
funded
Well, the
through.
one thing I would do if I was mayor, and I'll put that out there, is we have a capital stabilization fund. We won't raise taxes, we'll pay the yearly payment out of that.
You running for office?
If I ran for office, the first thing I'd do is senior center city space. Do it.
But that capitalization fund comes from, at the end of the year, there's always
Free cash.
free cash. Thank you.
Right, and
the
that's
word
what
I'm
she
thinking of.
said when
Free
she talked with us about joining this building committee and what our, endeavor was going to be for the year, she mentioned free cash. And that was why I'm like,
From what I've heard, she's coming into a couple of tight budget years coming up, real tight. There may be cuts. But you're glad you're not on the council, Dan.
240.
Okay, while Dan plays with his calculator.
$1,000 a year. I mean, $100,000. No,
She's coming into a tight budget year, Dan. Free cash is gonna dry up.
capital, yeah, I'm just talking about stabilization. I'm not talking about. That's not being used. Well,
Yeah.
this is a debate with me and the mayor. Even if you use half of it, we'll cut the tax rate down. We'll pay for this override. But the taxes don't have to pay for it. We'll put the other half.
The problem is, well, you can't control the tax rate, drop it all you want. The values are going through the roof. So it raises your taxes anyway.
No, I'm not
Right.
talking about that. I'm talking about the monthly payment and the yearly payment. Anyway, is there anything else to discuss today? Thank you all. I need a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further
7
discussion?
minutes early.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.